Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back for our final webinar of this three-webinar mini-series that we've been conducting. Just a quick request, if you can hear me, may I please request that you type yes in the chat so that I know we're all good. Brilliant, thank you. All right, so today I'm going to be flying solo. Unfortunately, it's a Saturday afternoon and everyone's busy with different stuff, so I'm here all alone. And I will be taking you through this last and third concluding series. Just a couple of notes. We will be issuing participation certificates, so please be sure to fill in the feedback form link, which I will share with you at the end of this webinar today. You will also get it in a mail to follow up tomorrow, along with some additional reading material and resources, which we think would be very helpful for you to deep dive more into all that we've been looking at in these three webinars. So on that note, let's begin. It's 2 minutes after 2, and we have quite a large number of participants today. So welcome, good afternoon, and let's get going. Just to recap for you, in our first webinar, it was all about lesson planning, lesson staging, and how to adapt materials. And we spoke about the Pomodoro technique. We looked at screencasting. In particular, we looked at Loom. We also spoke of an LMS, or a learning management software called Edmodo, which you could use. It's completely free. And then, of course, we looked at various ways in which material can be adapted, including mind maps and polls and various other listening strategies. So that was what we did in webinar 1. In webinar 2, we looked at interaction. So first part was about planning your lessons and holding it or conducting it. The second part is how to build this all-important area of interaction. At the end of the day, in an online environment, much as we are in everyone's home or office, it is also important to keep the energy of the classroom alive. It is also vitally important as teachers to ensure that our learners are with us and we're all on the same page. So in yesterday's webinar, we looked at various ways we could build communication, including giving clear instructions, and we looked at some focus activities. We also looked at how eliciting questions are very helpful beyond the traditional, did you understand and are you following me? We looked at how we could use virtual backgrounds and augmented reality as tools and aids in the entire process. And of course, we looked at gaming sites like Kahoot and Bamboozle, which does not require an additional device. And then, of course, when it came to building rapport, we looked at things like forums and breakout rooms where students build rapport between themselves. There's a lot of peer bonding and peer work, which of course leads to us having a nice, tight, strongly built and well-supported classroom to encourage all our learners gain at their own momentum, but gain nonetheless. And that brings us to today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at assessment, progression, and reflective practice, and ways in which we can help bring together the learning and the feedback to ensure that we're always with our learners, and more importantly, they are with us. So on that note, let's begin by looking at some of the various online assessment methods that we can use. So we discovered in the earlier webinars that quizzing or quizzes are a very good way to assess what our learners have understood, what our learners in particular have not just understood at a macro level, but even at a micro level, we get an opportunity to see what they've understood. We also can use open-ended and essay kind of questions. We've discussed how we can use interviews and polls, and of course use peer evaluation and review. And of course, like I mentioned earlier yesterday, we looked at forums that can also help be a good online assessment method. So stemming from that, we now look at how can we assess written work. And one such important way to do that is through screencasting. So the question, why use a screencast tool for assessing written work? Well, quite simply because one, it saves you time in any sort of marking. All right, keep in mind that some of us may have many learners in a classroom, so you may perhaps not have the time to individually write out a detailed report. But of course, it's easier if you're recording the screen, perhaps annotating it as you go along and recording what you're doing. In addition to that, of course, you can personalize the feedback. Rather than keep it very general, you have an opportunity to create a short video or a short screencast, which gives every learner their due share of assessment that is required. And finally, of course, in this age, we look for anything that is paperless or that is going to help cut down on volumes and reams of paper. So hence, keeping it digital is not just faster, it also serves as a permanent record, which could be stored either as part of your LMS or it could be stored virtually in a cloud. And of course, it could be shared with multiple learners for peer review. It could also be shared with parents in certain cases. So to help you understand a little bit about how to use screencasting as a basis to assess written work, I'd like to share with you this quick video. Like I mentioned, all of these have been compiled by our colleagues in the UK office. This is just the first of a mini series that we want to do, not just with English, but perhaps look at building this out into other subjects as well, and even creating bridges between the subjects. So let me share with you this video. Needless to say, it would help if you're making notes, but if you want to quickly run and grab, like a scavenger hunt, notebook or a pen, please do so now. I'll give you a couple of seconds. So right through all our webinars, we've tried to also populate it with additional material for your better understanding, including a lot of video aids. So here goes. I hope you're back and you've got your notebook and pen ready.
Okay, so I'm going to make a very short tutorial about how I use screen capture technology, which is probably my favorite educational technology that I use. The thing that I use it mostly for is to correct and assess students' written work. And what happens is the students send me a file. Normally it's a document. I read through the file and at the same time I talk through the mistakes they've made or how they can improve their work, and I save this as a video file and I send it to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you the steps. I'm actually filming my screen to give you a teacher's eye view of what it looks like, and I hope they'll make it clear for you. Okay, so what happens is the student sends me their piece of work, so I open it up and then I use the screen capture technology. In this case I'm going to use Snagit. There are lots of different types of screen capture technology out there. Some of them A lot of them are free. This one's a paid one, but it's got a few extra features that I like. Anyway, so I press capture, and then I select the area of the screen that I want to record. So it could be the full screen. In this case, I only want the document, so I select this size, okay, and then I can scroll up and down the document as I go on. So this comes up, and then I press record right here, and then I start to give the student his or her feedback. Now the camera's rolling. Okay, hi Simon. Thanks very much for your homework. I hope that you're well. I'm going to give you a few tips and pointers on how to improve your written English. So let's have a look. Yeah, the first line, that's fine. Oh, there's a mistake here, and another preposition here. Okay, this should be cool. Doesn't agree with teammates. Remember, beginning of a sentence should be capital. What's your spelling? Also here too. Anyway, blah 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 blah. Okay, and I could go through more. So there's, I scroll through. There's more and more of the writing, and I can correct as much or as little as I want. When I finished, I go to the stop button here and press stop. Okay, so now what's happened is the feedback, the spoken feedback I've given on the student's written work is saved as a file, okay, but as a video file. So now I've got different possibilities. What I can do, I have to send the file back to the student. So I could either save the video file as a file and send it via email, or what I could do here is I've got a share button. I could send it to Google Drive, and then I could, if you're using Edmodo, I could put that link in the student's homework. In this case, I'm going to save it as a file. So I just press file. Let's call it Simon's homework. And save. Okay. So this is now the file that I send to the student. So the student opens up his or her email or goes to the Google Drive, and this is what they see. And what they can do, normally what I say to my students, I give them instructions beforehand, and I'll send them the file, and they correct their homework, or they rewrite their homework using my suggestions as a guide what to do. So this is what they get. Okay, hi Simon. Thanks very much for your homework. I hope that you're well. I'm going to give you a few tips and pointers on how to improve your written English. So let's have a look. Yeah, the first line, that's fine. There's a mistake here, and another preposition here. Okay, okay, this should be cool. Doesn't agree with teammates. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear for you. The reasons I love this software so much probably is that it saves me time. You won't believe how much time it saves. It's a lot quicker than ordinary marking. Secondly, it's personalized. I can give as little or as much feedback to the student as I want. And there's something quite motivating about the student listening to me giving the feedback to them. And Lastly, it's very environmentally friendly because it's all paperless. Okay, well, thanks very much for your attention. I hope that you found this very, very short tutorial useful.
All right, so this is about using screencasting as a quick way to capture relevant feedback that you'd like to give your learners, which in a way will save you a lot of time and also allow you to be exceedingly spontaneous and highlight a lot of the genuine feedback that you wish to give your learner. Now, while assessing is an important part, in the context of an objective as a teacher or as a course that you're running, it's also exceedingly important to keep in mind the kind of progression that your learners are making. So one of the ways in which you can do that is, we discussed this yesterday, is you can use Kahoot as a way to gamify your entire um, learning. Um, it includes things like quizzes and various other modalities that allow you to do this. Um, but the most important thing, perhaps, is to consider that from a progression assessment or progression measurement tool, it can do a couple of things also. For instance, it can give you the whole class view. So obviously, if you've got a bigger group of learners, you have these kind of leaderboards or dashboards that at a glance allow for you to know exactly where each student stands. And in addition to having this macro view, you could also go down to a view per student and see exactly how they're progressing. And very often you'd realize through this process that particular students are having a little bit of difficulty in particular areas. So that also gives you a chance to look at it question wise. So you get statistics from various points of view, or you get some sort of a snapshot that gives you a very quick assessment of the progression that your learners are making. And this, of course, is very, very helpful, only so that you are at any point in time clear where exactly students stand, not just as a class, but student-wise, as well as question-wise. And I think that is really, really important as a way of assessing where students stand. This brings us, of course, now to um, assessing learners. So in addition to the classwork that we do in general, there are many other tools available online to help you keep records of student progress. There are various things like task types. And of course, there are many apps that also help you do this. So one of the ways in which you can do this when you're looking at task types is through multiple choice questions. And over here in particular, you can use things like gap filling, where students have to complete parts of sentences. So in this particular case, of course, we're looking at prepositions not just of time, but prepositions of place as well. And students this way can also not just answer it in simply saying, I was born in Liverpool on, or in rather, 2010. But you can also now add a little variety and get them to be physically active as well by asking them to perhaps stand up if the answer is, let's say, on, or wave at the screen if it's in, and various ways in which you can keep this classroom fun, alive, and active. Um, so there's, of course, other ways in which you can do it. Now, I'm pretty sure as teachers, none of this is really exceedingly new to you. So very quickly, if I may ask in the chat, if you can think of other ways that you would perhaps like to share with the other teachers on this forum, ways in which you can ask students to demonstrate their answers without necessarily saying option A, option B, or option C. So if you want, you're welcome to just type that into the chat, so that other teachers can also benefit from your experience. So like I said, so this can vary in many, many ways. Needless to say, actions is a great way to keep them alive. Having a scavenger hunt and building that into your answers could also be another way of doing this. So I take it that you're all dried up this Saturday afternoon and uh, probably a little, yeah, okay, so someone's just typed in and says, Sean Libby, thank you, where she says, well, one of their ways could also be turning their back briefly. So yes, absolutely. Actually, there's no rocket science to this. As a teacher, very often once you get your hands on or sink your teeth into the class, you're going to have a lot of fun and you're going to come up with a lot of alternative ways. So thank you, Sean. That's really helpful. So let's move on. Now, another way, of course, sorry, just give me a second. Another way, of course, is to use something known as the close test. If you Google up what the word close test is, you realize that it's basically about omitting parts of sentences to elicit gap filling, or rather it's a gap fill technique where students fill in the missing words. And now the interesting thing with this kind of an approach is that you get to see in the context of perhaps grammar, which words are they having trouble with. So you can see in an easier version of this task, you can actually put the starting letter of the prompt words that you want students to fill in the gaps with. So last week I went to the, could be the shop. While I was there, I blah, 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 blah. So here, of course, you can use a technique like this to elicit specific answers from students. And if you want, you can maybe even get them to type this into the chat, the gap fills. So if you number them correctly, all the learner needs to do is just type the number of the gap that they're filling in and actually put in their word. So this, of course, keeps it highly interactive and yet personalized as a way of assessing this. Now, so far we've been looking at different ways of assessment. Let's look at another interesting one, which is assessing, and this is a really important thing from an English teacher's perspective, is because we know we always normally tend to gravitate towards reading and writing. And I dare say in the context of India, a lot of the times, if there's something that we don't really get into just for want of sheer class size, particularly in schools, is assessing speaking. And so hence, here is another way you can do this. The teacher can select a topic with very clear criteria for assessment so that learners are aware of the objectives. And then learners have a chance in their own time, maybe as part of their homework, to send in their recording. And this either they can share with a peer, their buddy or their partner in class, and of course they can share it with you. Now, the most obvious one that one can use for making short recordings of speech is WhatsApp. But there is another very interesting one, which is called Vocoroo. And you can use it, for instance, in something like a picture prompt, wherein you share a particular picture with the student, with the learners, and they provide their thoughts on it by describing the picture. This, of course, practically every language related speaking activity would at some point in time involve picture descriptions. And specifically, if you look at the earlier grades of Jesse, it involves learners becoming familiarized with their rooms in the home or in the classroom, or parts of the body, or animals for that matter. So you can use this in a variety of ways at multiple grades across the board. And you can use this whenever you feel like. That gives students an authentic opportunity to use the language that they have at their disposal. And this way, simultaneously, you're also getting them to learn conscientiously or even subconsciously the power of speaking or public speaking, because they're making recordings. And some of them will have great fun listening to themselves, understanding how their voice is. And you can extend this activity not just from the obvious picture description, but to working on the nuances of the voice, on intonation, and various other things like that. So what I would like to do for you is, this of course is the instructions that you would follow, but I'd like to actually share with you how you could perhaps use it, not just in the context of a standalone way, but you could also marry this into your LMS, or which we've been talking about, Edmodo. So let's very quickly look at this particular software called Vokaru. And of course, it has great ways in which you can even share those links, not just into the LMS, but also in the entire group in the class, if that's one of the objectives that you have for peer learning. So very quickly, let me just take you through this video, or rather it's a self-explanatory video, so please enjoy.
In a lot of public exams, one of the tasks that students have to do very often is a picture description. I'm going to explain to you very quickly how students can do this and send you the description as a file to be marked and assessed. It's very, very quick and simple. Okay, so I'm going to use Edmodo because I like this platform so much, but you can use any LM management system or even email the photograph to the students that you want them to describe. Okay, so this is the students page. It comes up. Hi class, I'd like you to look at the photo, think about how you're going to describe it, then open vokaru.com, copy and paste the link and open Vokaru in a new window. It's very important. Then describe the photograph and post the link of your recording underneath. So open link in a new window. Okay, this is important because you want it to be, if it's in the same window, you're going backwards and forwards. So in another window, you can have both things open on the page. So you go to vokaru.com and this one comes up. And all you have to do is press the record button. So, this is a picture of a bedroom. The walls are green. In the corner of the room there's a bed. There are 3 pigs and a frog on the bed. There's also a green pillow. Next to the bed there's a table. On top of the table there's a television. And behind the television is a window. Okay. The student can record the recording as many times as they like until they're satisfied with what they've done. This is a picture of a bedroom. The walls are green. Okay, so if you're happy with that, that's the one you save and share. If not, then you re-record it. So we'll save and share it. Okay. Copy the link. And the link, then the students can either email this link to you, or again what I prefer is they put it in their Edmodo or their Learn Management System page. Okay. and comment. Okay, this is my account, but in reality this would be the student's account. Then the teacher comes along and I click and I listen. This is a picture of a bedroom. The walls are green. In the corner of the room there's a bed. There are 3 pigs and a frog on the bed. There's also a green pillow. Next to the bed there's a table. On top of the table there's a television, and behind the television is a window. They are back. And I write a comment. It could be, you need to do it again, use more vocabulary, you spoke too slowly, or whatever it was. In this case, excellent work, Simon, and comment. And that's it. I hope you found the mini tutorial useful.
All right, so in another interesting way, of course, as you saw, Bokaru is an exceedingly functional website. There isn't too much of jazz happening on the page, which is kind of sometimes very welcome because it just sticks to what the task is, to record and to send or to share. And of course, it's up to us as teachers, if we're using an LMS, to kind of integrate it and to build it in. But now let's move on from assessing speech to also looking at how we can assess writing. So one particular easier way to do this, of course, is Google Docs. And there are several other collaborative writing platforms wherein you can just share the link without you necessarily having to have oodles of space on your local computer for photographs and stuff like that. You can, of course, just type straight into email, which is also a way to do it. But like I said, it is time consuming with multiple learners. Being able to do this for extended passages and stuff like that could be a little bit of a challenge. But of course, when you use something like a shared document, you have the opportunity to kind of insert a comment, and students can even track changes as they go along. And of course, if you're using a touch screen or touchpad, then of course you can use a stylus to just mark up particular portions that you want to draw your learners' attention to. Now, one other software that kind of is exceedingly helpful with grammar and vocabulary is liveworksheets.com. And of course, the great thing about live worksheets are that they mark themselves. So it's fantastic if you have a very large group of learners or a full classroom. And the beauty of this software is that it is it's free. So let's just very quickly go through how you can use this particular software with the short tutorial video.
Okay, so hi guys, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about live worksheets, which are really good for testing, and where the computer actually does the marking for you. So again, it saves you lots of time. Okay, I'm going to very quickly run through it. It's free. It's free even for the whole school until the end of the year. But your normal account, I think you have about 100 students, and that's free forever. Okay, so go to liveworksheets.com and let's go to the search. Just type in English. Okay, and let's just do, and you see there's lots and lots of activities and worksheets here. Okay, there's days of the week, prepositions, am, are, is, were, colours. You know, there's all different levels. Okay, let's just go back to the first one. Okay, so this is how it works. Find an activity that's suitable, and then you, okay, this one for present simple looks good. Copy the link, and then you send the link to your students, or maybe put it in Edmodo. Okay, so they copy the link, there it is, and this is what comes up. Okay, let's just make it a little bit smaller so you can see. Okay, so all you have to do is choose a correct option. So let's do really quickly. I'm not even going to. Okay, so you just click. Okay, then when you've selected the correct answer, is finish. Okay, now it gives you two options. Okay, so the student can either check the answer, and and the answer comes up on the page. Okay, or the other option. So let's do it again. So copy and paste. Let's go. Okay. Okay, finish. Is they can email the answers to the teacher. But it doesn't go to your email. It goes to your account in Live Worksheets. So press email. Let's put names. Let's put James +4 English, and it's the email, right? And sent. And you get a reply saying your answers have been sent to your teacher. Good luck. And for the students, that's done and finished. Okay, now for us, we go to our accounts. So let's go to the live. So back again to Live Worksheets. Here, and I check my inbox. Okay, there it is. James Press. And there's his result, 6.7, marked for you. Okay, and that's it. Hope it was useful.
So as you can see, this is exceedingly helpful because there's a lot of user-generated content. And when I say user-generated, I mean many other teachers have also contributed. So very often, when you're looking for a particular area that you want to work on, all you need to do is actually just search for it, and you perhaps will have some ready-made sheets. And of course, you always have the freedom and flexibility to create your own and share it also with many others. But here, of course, you can see that one of the biggest advantages of using a service like Live Worksheets is that the correcting or the correction kind of happens automatically. And again, in the interest of time, this is a great tool to use so that it's already preloaded with a variety of topics, materials, and resources that you can either copy or you can even customize. But most importantly, it'll save you a lot of time on the scoring and the marking. And particularly when you're working with a larger group size, that might be really handy for you to just spend time on actually knowing where the trouble is rather than trying to find the trouble per se with each student's scoring. And this, of course, then leads you to the next stage where you can actually start to offer corrective inputs to the learners. So this brings us to the end of today's session. Just to do a quick recap of all that we looked at today. We looked at various online methods in which you can assess written work like screencasting. We also looked at ways in which you can use websites like Vokaru for speaking. For that matter, even if you want to record your feedback. And of course, you can use live worksheets. As regards how to assess progression as we go along, if you're using Kahoot, then it's helpful because it gives you an entire overview of your class, and then kind of pipes down to levels like the student view, as well as a particular area that the student may be having difficulty with, or the students may be having difficulty with. So that will help clarify for you which areas do you need to spend more time on going forward, and what perhaps could you do. In fact, very often if you're using things like Kahoot, what will also start to happen is that you will start to build additional games or additional activities just on the troublesome areas. So not only does it help you to get done and dusted with the entire topic, but to even refine and to spend more time magnifying the troublesome areas and getting on with course correction. And of course, we looked at another way in which you can use Google Docs in a collaborative way for reflective feedback. So this is all that we did in today's webinar.